Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Texas Road. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We got a lot to talk about. There's been commitments, signing, Texas women going to the Final Four. Congratulations to them, by the way. We got a whole lot. We're also going to talk a little Directors Cup, as you've all been wanting. Here, probably in about 25, 30 minutes. So we'll get to that too. But first, guys, let's back up a little bit to yesterday when Texas got a commitment from Jackson Cook, the 2027 Westlake offensive lineman.
Yeah, the son of Matt Trissel. So legacy commit, but he's far more than a legacy commit. He's a offensive lineman that began his career at Lago Vista, transferred over to Westlake. Had a tremendous junior season that included 72 pancakes. Hey, you need to do better, Jackson. Your number is 74. You got to get to your number this year. 72 pancake blocks for Westlake last year. Committed to Texas. He had 12 Power 4 offers since January. He's one of those guys that once college coaches got out in December, January, and started reevaluating the 27 class outside the guys that they had already offered. Jackson Cook became very popular with college coaching staffs. He had a number of official visits scheduled when Texas offered him. We had a feeling that once Texas offered him, this recruitment wasn't going to go on much longer, and it did not. He is 6'3", 287-pound guard or center. I think he started working a little bit at center. He really went to the next level as a recruit at the Under Armour camp in Dallas, March 1st. Extremely talented Under Armour camp. This happens a lot on the circuit. If you go up there and you do really well in a Dallas Under Armour camp or an Under Armour camp around the country, that means you tested well. He had a good shuttle. He had an over 80-inch wingspan. He had the 10-inch hands. And then he looked really good in the one-on-ones, which is obviously set up for defensive linemen to look the best. He more than held his own there, showed good body quickness, reactive quickness, and really good football intelligence learning that day. And he posted all, and that goes all those results go to colleges around the country. And after that, he picked up a number of other offers, and that included Texas March 9th and A&M March 22nd. He had official visits to SMU, Arkansas, which he turned down, obviously canceled those and committing to Texas. So a guy that one thing I'll say about this commitment is, yes, he's a talented football player, and yes, all the big schools have started taking notice of him. But when he puts on the Texas uniform, it's going to mean everything to him. And when you have offensive linemen, I think that's a key thing. I think you need a couple of those guys, Bobby, that offensive, defensive line, that it means everything to wear the jersey. That's how you end up with a Casey Studdard on your line.
Hey, Jerry, in this day and age of the portal, too, and NIL, it matters to be able to develop these young offensive linemen and guys that are going to have the patience and desire to stay where they're at. Be where your feet are, as Sark likes to say. I would also say this, just from watching this film, Jerry, he gets to the second level, and when he locks on, he locks on.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that likes to finish. Big pickup here. Commitment number 7 for the Longhorns. Our guys spoke to him last night, Jackson Cook, the newest Longhorn commitment, on the live stream. He had some fun. It was a fun conversation for all involved. Blake, I'll let you take the mic here and take control.
Yeah, so as you said, it was a very fun conversation. And one of the things that came up was former Longhorn Casey Studdard. And here's what he had to say.
In the room with Mr. Too long. I've started training with him, doing some footwork stuff, and we started talking football. We're outside Westlake High School, and people look at us like we're some freaks. We're just yelling at each other, talking about if he's here. Well, we say it's a walkthrough, and we're going full speed. And I know Mr. Studdard very well. He's definitely somebody who impacts my game. He plays like I do, and he's just to the situation I was. Undersized. People didn't know that much about him. So that's kind of who I think of myself as.
Yeah, I tell you what, ask him some of his best trash talking lines, because he had to be a great trash talker.
I'm not trying to draw 15, Coach. Come on.
I'm more of a quiet person. I like when people trash talk me, because I know that means that they're insecure. I pride myself on, I'm not a trash talker, but if you're going to trash talk me, you might as well call it the game, because you're not getting a single stat.
CJ loved this interview. Said it's his favorite interview he's done on there. Rod Babers and Coach Shipley loved it as well. Obviously, chip off the old block. Matt Trissel, the former Longhorn fullback son, now a Texas Longhorn. Hank South, by the way, Jerry, I don't know if you got a chance to read that yet this morning or yesterday afternoon. Had a great one-on-one interview with Westlake head coach Tony Salazar about Jackson Cook, and I thought that was a good piece of reporting by Hank, getting a different perspective, one that is behind the scenes there with Jackson Cook. But congratulations to him. Congratulations to his family. And he is your now he's not even your most recent Texas Longhorn. We're going to talk about one that happened this morning as well in just a second. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, each and every Tuesday edition of Coffee and Football, brought to you by our friend Rick Vavro and the guys over at Texas Road. They are your full-service solution for major road projects in and around the state, with the full support of multiple crews performing utility, dirt work, concrete, and asphalt. Texas Road provides on-site concrete through volumetric trucks for smaller volumes. They're able to complete road building in a high-profile environment. Again, they are your full-service solution for major road projects across the great state of Texas. That's Texas Road, our friend Rick Vavro and his team. Thanks, Rick, for your sponsorship of On Texas Football.
All right, Bobby. Well, as you said, he wasn't even the latest one, because this morning Texas, and it was announced that Texas has signed SMU transfer offensive lineman Patterson.
He's a 6'5", 325 pound offensive lineman. He played in 11 games for SMU this past year. Originally signed with Arkansas and is out of the East St. Louis area. I called someone up in St. Louis this morning to talk to him about him. He played at East St. Louis High and actually was a year ahead of Ryan Wingo up in the St. Louis area. Just to give you an idea of when he came out. Played 11 games for SMU last year. This is a depth piece for Texas. Don't make any mistake. He's not coming in to take somebody's starting spot, but he is a fourth-year player with playing experience at a major conference level, both at Arkansas and at SMU. He becomes a depth piece in case Texas has a rash of injuries. Now, he cannot show up on campus officially until the month of June. Summer one session is when he can actually start working out with the team, et cetera. But he was in the portal and has signed with the University of Texas. Longhorns continuing to add personnel based on what Steve Sarkisian had to say yesterday to the media, and we'll actually meet with the media again today at 11 a.m. Right now, I think Sark is safe to say he's trying to fill every hole possible that he could possibly think of, guys, because I think he thinks he has a hell of a team right now.
Well, I think I also say in the 105 era, there's no reason not to add. We talk about this in the high school level, signing the extra offensive and defensive linemen every class, in my opinion, especially on the D line. And then from a portal standpoint, there is no reason not to use some of those 105s to ensure, if you have a rash of injuries at a position that's a crucial position, that you're not left holding the bag at the end of the year. Yeah. I mean, in the 105, I don't think there's any excuse to be left holding the bag at a position if you have a rash of injuries. So I like that they're using as many of the 105 as they can to ensure that it doesn't get to a situation where maybe you have a run of bad luck at a position. You have 3 injuries at one position in a 6-week span or something crazy like that. And then you're really left in a really bad position. With the 105, there's no reason for that anymore.
I agree. This isn't someone that we expect to come in and take a starting role or even be in the top 7 necessarily, Jerry. We expect this to be a depth piece, break in case of emergency kind of situation. But I would say this, to your point, Jerry, it goes into how they're working behind the scenes right now from a player personnel perspective. They are trying to make sure they fill every hole. Hey, other things we got to talk about. Big one for our friend Vic Schaefer, guys, and big one for Rory Harmon, Madison Booker, Jordan Lee, Kyla Oldacre yesterday went off. Vic, And the ladies are headed to the Final Four in Phoenix, Jerry Hamilton. They swamped Michigan, winning by 36 points yesterday. They were up by 40 at one point. They went on a 25-2 run in the second half. They out-rebounded Michigan. This is, Jerry, I was going to ask you this.
Yeah.
Like, of all the stats, I know you watched the game and looked at the stats this morning, all that stuff. They out-rebounded Michigan 48-29.
Yeah.
Is that not just something that you just sit back and say, wow? I mean, that's an unheard of number or gap for two teams in the Elite Eight. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think so Texas was going to bully Michigan. That they had a bigger roster. Obviously, when Michigan shoots 23% and Texas shoots 47%, I think it was, there's going to be a big discrepancy in rebounds if you're actually rebounding the ball. But Texas was going to bully them. What I liked about what Texas did in that game was, and Vic even said it afterwards, they got away from it in the second quarter. Offensively, at the first quarter of that game, they were really checking Michigan's oil defensively. They were going deep into the shot clock just to see how Michigan was going to chase and guard Texas through their sets. The first half of the shot clock, they weren't even looking to score. They were literally testing Michigan's defensive oil and said, okay, are y'all going to switch? Because what you notice is Michigan struggled chasing off of screens in that game. The shots Texas got, Michigan struggled chasing. The shots Texas got were everything they wanted in the first quarter. So Texas played really well. And I've said this from the standpoint from the start of the NCAA tournament. There's about 6 teams. There's not a lot of depth in women's college basketball. There's about 6 teams that you could look at and say, okay, that team's probably can get to a Final Four. That team. Now let's go play some ball, because we've gotten past all 4 number 1 seeds advanced. Everybody won every game by double digits, as everybody expected them to do. Now let's go play some ball. Texas plays UCLA, who they beat them 76-65. UCLA's only loss. That will be Friday, and the winner of that game will get the winner of 38-0 UConn in South Carolina. So I think that South Carolina UConn game is going to be very interesting. So now we got past the point of that. There's not depth in the women's game. All 4 1 seeds advanced as they were supposed to. Nobody had a close game. Texas had the biggest blowout, but nobody had close games. Everybody's average win was probably over 20, 25. So now let's go play some ball. It's going to be a heck of a Final Four. I think the best 4 teams are there, obviously. And maybe at LSU upset somebody and got there. You could argue for them a little bit. But all 4 number 1 seeds are there. And now let's go play some ball. I think the biggest thing for Texas, as we'll talk about as we lead up to Friday, for the women, is guarding a 3-point line against UCLA. That's it. They made 245 threes this year. They make over 8 threes a game. If Texas can take away the 3-point line against UCLA, they will beat them again. Because then it will get into the areas where I don't think UCLA matches up well with Texas. So Texas guards a 3-point line well. I like their chances against UCLA. I personally hope they play UConn in the final. I think it would be an amazing game. I'm not sure Texas, South Carolina really need to play. What do you? I mean, maybe
like 8 times in 2 years.
I mean, it's getting boring. I give them credit, but I think a Texas UConn game would be because that means UConn's 39-0. They're going for a perfect season. We're talking about what would be the best game for Texas. The best game for Texas, we've seen the South Carolina many times, would be for UConn to beat South Carolina, be 39-0, Texas 36-3, and go at it for the title. A lot of pressure would be on UConn in that situation. Now, they didn't win the national championship last year, so a lot of their players have done it. And by the way, I was thinking about this last night in the third quarter of that game. Y'all realize Texas hasn't lost since Vic went off after the Vanderbilt game, right? So a lot of people thought he was over the top and that was too much. And I can tell you this, guys. I'd much rather have Vic Schaefer's press conference than John Shire's press conference after a loss. One's tough and one is soft. So be happy you have Vic.
Speaking of
Speaking of Vic, I got him addressing his team after the big win yesterday, so I want to play that for everybody.
Tough. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is how tough you guys are. You know, your competitive spirit is off the chart. And I think everybody can see that in the arena, across the country. It's what stands out about you. It's who you are right now. It's just how tough you play, how hard you play. I want y'all to really keep doing what you're doing. I have never had so much confidence in a group of young ladies as I do in you guys. Y'all, if you'll keep this edge and you'll keep bringing the wood, I'm telling you, the sky's the limit. Like, you're so tough. You're so competitive. You play the game the right way. And I am honored to be your coach. It has been a ride so far, and we're not done. That's the way to get in that butt. Texas fight, 1, 2, 3. Texas fight.
You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to go buy a net since I don't have a Final Four net to wear and wear a net Friday on the show. I've never had the pleasure of wearing a net around my neck, so maybe I'll do it for the show Friday. Game
Light up shoes, a net. You're going to be in full regalia, Senor Hamilton. Hey, talking about Texas and all that they've been doing, we're going to have Dr. Brett Wilkinson on from the Directors Cup updates. He's a former he's a UT grad, now a doctor, but he runs a site, a Twitter account that actually calculates Directors Cup points up to the minute after every event closes. And long story short, he's got some news for our Longhorn fans this week that we're going to pass along to you. He'll be on around 8:45 today. If you just now are joining us, just to recap, because it is kind of big news, Texas has added 2 players in the last 24 hours from a recruiting perspective. One is a high school commitment in Jackson Cook. We mentioned him already, young man out of Austin's Westlake High School, originally out of Lago Vista, but transferred to Westlake last year. He is the son of Matt Trissel, the former Longhorn fullback. He's around 6'3", 6'4", 290 pounds or so, Jerry. And then also Paris Patterson, an offensive lineman out of SMU who went in the portal back in the spring or back in the winter, has now signed with Texas. He's a depth piece for the Longhorns, could play tackle or guard. I'm told that was a part of the process for Texas as well, to have somebody that had some versatility and age to them. 6'5", 330 pounds is Paris Patterson. He is not expected to be a quote-unquote starter. He is considered a depth piece for the Longhorns.
That's right. Okay. I'm glad Miracle Martinez brought this up because I actually meant it when we were talking about women's basketball. There will be a Final Four send-off today at 3:15 at the Moody Center Plaza. They're also going to be giving away Final Four posters while supply lasts. So you can go get you one of those. And
the timeline, the timeline for the women is kind of messed up. That they played Monday in the Elite Eight, and then they turn around and go to Phoenix. They get home. So South Carolina goes home to South Carolina and then flies out to Phoenix the next day. It's kind of messed up timeline. The men are on a little better timeline there, but it's going to be a great send-off. And it's going to be a heck of a Final Four. And that's in Phoenix Friday. Texas plays the second game Friday. The first game is UConn, South Carolina at 6. And then Texas, UCLA at 8:30 in the Final Four, women's Final Four.
Go out and support them if you're around.
Yep.
You got a chance, go out and support them. And Shy Baby says, Fort Worth was amazing last night because Longhorn Nation showing up and showing out. Best game I've been to in a while. Ladies may win it all. Thank you for going to that game and supporting the Longhorns. What a game for the ladies from Rocky Ford. That was the best defense I've seen them play under Vic, and that is saying something. Love Jordan Lee not letting the shooting slump affect her effort on defense. I noticed that too. Texas did not hit a 3-point basket in the first half at all. Yeah. I mean, they were up double digits and had not hit a 3-pointer. That's rare. Nah, I shouldn't say that's rare. That's saying something. But they didn't let it happen. They got on track from 3 later. But the defensive intensity, man, it never waned for them, it felt like. I will say this, and Jerry, you mentioned the Friday game and the quick turnaround. one good thing about these blowouts that I will admit is Madison Booker came out with like 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Oh, yeah.
Rory Harmon came out with like 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and came in one time for Breonna Preston when she got slightly injured. I mean, they were able to rest some of their players late in that game, which I think is good. And then, of course, Sarah Graves, who we had on the show on Sunday night, was it? Or I can't remember which day. She punctuated the game with a three-pointer last night as well. Kind of fitting end to that game.
Yeah, it was last Thursday, by the way. If anybody wants to go back more,
I can't remember.
Longhorn live stream in the evening. If anybody'd like to go back and see that. All right, guys. Well, I tell you what, before we talk a little Director's Cup update, Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everyone this morning about Harry's.
Yeah, Harry's razor. Absolutely. This is a very important read for all you guys and gals. Harry's razor. Did your old razor dull too fast? Sure it did. Did it irritate your neck? Of course it did. Did they cost way too much? $30 for eight refills? That's a total scam, and we all know it. Harry's Plus has an advanced pivoting system. It's very important to reach every corner of your face with refined blade tech for a closer, smoother shave and a weighted metal handle. That's very important to me as you hold this in your hand. And that's for added control and comfort, and that's 100%. What do you get with Harry's? You get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. Each blade is owned at 3 different angles to cut hair cleanly at the root without tugging. That tugging hurts. Blade spacing is optimized to glide smoothly and avoid clogging. Drugstore blades clog so fast, don't they? Every cartridge includes a lubricating strip with aloe and vitamin E to calm your skin while you shave. That's also very important. Harry's also owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany. No outsourcing, no middleman. The same facility's been perfecting blade making for over 100 years because they control the entire process from steel to shelf. They keep costs low. So again, why pay $30 for refills when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of that? Harry's has launched their most advanced razor ever, and it's still cheaper than the Gillette Fusion 5. If you don't love your shave, Harry's will make it right. No questions asked. Risk-free trial means there's zero downside to giving it a shot. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Trial Plus set for only $10 at harrys.com/ontexas. That set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, 2-ounce foaming gel, a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Very important. Just head to harrys.com/ontexas to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Yeah, that's easy. On Texas football.
And I'm going to tell everyone this morning about our friends over at Hexclad. Man, I love me some Hexclad. We were talking about them before the show. Everyone loves Hexclad. Go look at the pan that you've been using since college. If it's warped, everything sticks to it, and it smells vaguely like burned eggs and poor decisions, it might be time for some new pans. I made the switch to Hexclad a while back. These things are awesome. They combine stainless steel performance with non-stick convenience, so you actually get a real sear, but cleanup doesn't turn into a full workout afterward. And what I love is you don't have to baby them. You can use metal utensils. They're dishwasher safe. They're oven safe up to 900 degrees. These pans are built like tanks, and there's a reason that Gordon Ramsay uses Hexclad at home and in his restaurants. Every piece comes with a lifetime warranty, so this is basically the last set of pans that you're ever going to have to buy. Don't go through another spring using the same busted pans you should have thrown out years ago. For a limited amount of time, our listeners get 10% off your order with our exclusive link. Just head to hexclad.com/ontexas. Support our show. Check them out at Hexclad, HEXCLAD.com/ontexas. Make sure to let them know that OTF sent you and spring clean your kitchen the smart way with Hexclad.
I used it this morning. That is a good question. I got a question for y'all. For those of you guys went to college, how long did you keep the same pans that you bought in college? I mean, Jerry, is it possible you still have those?
You assume I used a pan.
I do. I got through college with some hamburger helper.
Does McDonald's count as a pan?
You assume you used the little ramen cups, didn't you?
If that. I might have used a cat bowl.
Oh, God.
Cat feeding bowl.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well,
I was lucky the bed sheets
A
got
cat. He used a cat. You have a cat in college? Good Lord. I give up. Hamilton.
oh, man. Someone says Deep's a Palooza. Corn dogs are microwavable. You don't have to use the pan. Oh. All right. Well, it's time for our guest this morning, Bobby. I'm going to let you do the introduction while I bring him in.
Yeah, I love it here. Dr. Brett Wilkinson, someone I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, Longhorn fan at heart. You can see the big T on his shirt there. Also has become kind of interestingly involved in Director's Cup. That's the all sports award bestowed annually to the nation's best college athletic department. Brett has devised a system that accumulates points on an ongoing basis. And I happen to know that he gets calls from athletic directors around the country to know what's going on in this Director's Cup. And last year, it was a whisker close finish that Brett correctly got right within seconds of the final, I guess the final lap of a track and field race. Brett, welcome in, are you with Texas, went to medical school, now a doctor down in New Orleans. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Wilkinson.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Bobby and Blake, y'all got to step up the fashion game. Jerry Hamilton is quickly taking the Kim Mulkey Award for the podcast with the shoes and the net outfits. And yes. I feel like you guys are just letting it happen. So
he can have that award if you don't mind. Hey, Brett, couple things. Longhorns winning the men's swimming and diving championship. They are awarded 100 points per national championship. And then I'll let you explain the scoring proposition for those that are unaware, first of all, and then where the current things stand based on actual results so far, and then your long-term projections.
Yeah. So for those that aren't familiar, I know I've been on here multiple times and a lot of people follow the Twitter account, but if you're not familiar with the Director's Cup, like Bobby said, it really seeks to name the best athletic department in the country. And this is top to bottom athletics. They don't really weigh any sports more heavily than others. So, football counts as much as rowing, counts as much as beach volleyball. They're really looking at the entire breadth of the athletic department. Your top 19 sports get their scores counted. Like Bobby said, a national championship's worth 100 points, and then it goes down from there. And the only caveat is you have to include 5 sports. You have to include both basketball teams, baseball, volleyball, and they recently added women's soccer as a required sport, which wasn't great news for Texas here at the end of the Ange Kelly era. But those sports must be included in your 19. So as Bobby showed here, this is the current top 10. This was after last week's action. And, kind of the standard names up at the top. Stanford, who has won the Director's Cup 25 years in a row before Texas made their entrance a few years ago. And they're going to be the main competition going forward for Texas. North Carolina is the only other team, aside from Texas and Stanford, that have ever won a Director's Cup. They won the very first one back in 1993. They're always highly competitive. And then a smattering of other schools there that, we'll have good seasons. We'll get up to the top. But right now, there's really no one pushing Texas and Stanford on a regular basis. USC made it very close last year. They actually finished in second place. It was the first time Stanford had not finished first or second in the history of the Director's Cup. So, USC, you don't see them on this top 10. Looking at how their sports have been doing, I don't think they're going to be a team pushing for a championship again this year. So I really do think it's going to come down to Texas and Stanford going forward.
Blake, do you have that projection there? There we go. This is, again, pretty close to call, Brett, right now. What are some of the sports and the differences between these two that we're going to be looking at over the next 2 months as baseball season, softball season, track and field, those things close?
Yeah, and I heard Jerry mention this the other day. Obviously Stanford's men's basketball has struggled quite a bit in recent history. their women's basketball was just a force for many years. I forget the name of their coach, but she recently retired. And they really have struggled. So neither of their basketball teams made the tournament. So as I was talking about required sports earlier, that's 2 required sports, and those are both going to show up as zeros on their score sheet. And then you have to look at baseball. Stanford baseball has been historically up and down. They've had some great years. Here recently they've missed the tournament as well. And they're off to a sluggish start this year as well. So their projection for points scored from baseball is also a 0. So that's 3 zeros that I think are going to show up on Stanford's score sheet. Obviously a long way to go in the baseball season, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But that's what really opens the door for Texas to compete with Stanford. To be completely honest, if Stanford was operating 100%, if they were making tournaments in these required sports, there's really no chance even for a school like Texas to compete with Stanford. But the door's open. And, I think Texas has a great shot to run right through that door and bring home their what would be their 5th Directors' Cup. Go ahead.
So explain basketball since we're in the middle of basketball. So Texas men get to a Sweet 16. What did that do points-wise in the women's going all the way to Final Four? I know there's still the possibility of the national championship out there, but for people that don't know, kind of explain, since we're right in the middle of basketball, that point breakdown.
Yeah, and it wasn't too long ago that the outlook was looking a little bit more grim for Texas. I know when I say grim, we probably were going to finish in 2nd instead of having a chance at 1st. Texas basketball, there was that week. It was like, all right, they're going to make the tournament. They're at least going to get 25 points. And then, as you guys outlined so nicely, they went on a bit of a slide at the end of the year. And then it's like, are they going to make the tournament? All right, they got in the first 4. Well, the first 4 gives you 5 points, which in the big scheme of the Directors' Cup isn't really significant, right? It ended up being the difference last year between 1st place and 3rd place, ironically. But normally the Directors' Cup is not that tightly contested at the end. So it was looking pretty grim at that point. They went on a run, so they had 5 points going into that NC State game. That run they went on, and going out as a Sweet 16 team, that earned 64 points. So in the matter of about a week, they added 60 points to the total. And as you look at the projection, I've even updated the projection more recently. It still has Texas at around 1,300 points. And I have Stanford actually dropping down closer to about 1,250. So Texas has maybe about a 50-point edge. And I just told you Texas basketball added 60 points to their score with their run. So that's the difference right now, is actually that Texas basketball went on the run they did and opened up a little bit of a lead over Stanford. All of these are hypothetical and projected points, but it's nice to have that cushion going into it. On the women's side, when I do these projections, I'm just looking at the rankings or the seedings. So they were the 3 overall seed. I put 83 points down for them in this projection. They've reached that by making the Final Four. And now from the Directors' Cup standpoint, they're playing with house money. We all know they have the capabilities to keep winning and hope that they do that. But I just have to look at the numbers. I have to just be objective about it. So they've reached their projection, and there's 17 points out there that they could add if they win the whole thing.
So obviously that means that you're relying a lot, your projection relying a lot on the outcomes of baseball, top 5 team in baseball for Jim Schlossnagle, top 5 team in softball for Mike White, as well as probably rowing, I would guess, is highly competitive. Is there any other teams out there that you're following right now that you think have some life left in them for the Longhorns that you're counting on for this Directors' Cup?
Yeah, it's really such an impressive athletic department to follow because there's just so much success across the board. The big ones where we really have to meet some pretty high expectations, like you said, baseball is right now at number 2, softball is ranked number 1, rowing's ranked number 2, right behind Stanford, ironically. So that regatta could be quite interesting when it comes to the Directors' Cup. It's had a big impact in the past as well. But men's tennis, both golf teams, the women's tennis team, beach volleyball, all of these programs are really looking to have top 10 finishes, if not better, in their respective sport. And then really the only other sport to mention that's not necessarily competing at that top 10 level right now is track and field. which is competitive, top 25 level, but not that top 10 level that we would hope for. And really with track and field, historically, they've been a national championship program. So a little bit of slide there in the track and field and cross country program. If Texas gets that back on track, their ability to win these Directors' Cups in the future goes through the roof. Stanford might not even be able to hang with them at that point. So that's what we have coming for the rest of the season. Lots of top finishes that I would expect.
All right, so the heat is on those guys. The pressure's actually on to perform. I had a question for you. Men's tennis won the indoor national championship in the fall, late fall, I believe. Does that count for any points, or is it only the final championships here in the outdoor season that matters for Directors' Cup?
Yep. So the rule and guideline is NCAA championships count, regardless of what the sport is. Indoor tennis is not an NCAA championship. I don't know necessarily why that's the case. For example, indoor track and field has been an NCAA championship for decades. So I don't know how that distinction is made for tennis, but that indoor tennis season really has no bearing on any of this, even though if you're good at tennis indoors, you're pretty much just as good outdoors. But there's unfortunately for Texas this year, it doesn't count for the Directors' Cup.
So A&M gets no points for equestrian and meat judging?
You are correct.
Okay.
They did win.
I just want them to know that.
SEC championship for equestrian. It will be factored into the SEC All Sports Trophy. But yeah, no NCAA championship for equestrian.
Brett, thank you so much. I didn't notice A&M in that top 10, so I'm happy. Didn't see OU either. I mean, Texas on the way to the top. I like this update, Brett. I like it.
Yeah, and I think the Texas Longhorn fans are going to be happy when they see the update here after basketball wraps up.
Yeah, good deal. Thanks, Brett. We appreciate you, and thanks for all you do. And where are you practicing? Just in case people are in New Orleans, where are you practicing as a doctor, and what kind of doctor are you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm an internal medicine doctor. I work as a hospitalist, and I always tell people if you want to be my patient, you're first going to have to enlist in the military, retire, and come see me. I actually work at the VA hospital here in New Orleans, so it's a long road to become one of my patients, and not one I would necessarily advise.
There you go. Well, Brett, thanks for all you do, man. You take care of yourself. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, take care of yourself. Dr. Brett Wilkinson, Directors_Cup updates. You can keep up with him on Twitter. Does a tremendous job, and really kind of he's interesting. He kind of made his own path in this thing to become like the national expert.
Numbers guy.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it's only a matter of time till pickleball ends up being a collegiate sport.
You think pickleball? Like there's somebody at CDC's town hall wanting flag football for females to be.
I can see that
because
there's now flag football camps the day before the Under Armour football camps at a lot of places around the country. Women's flag football is growing quickly when people like Under Armour start sponsoring camps for it.
Hey, Bobby, do you know when the Directors' Cup is awarded, like when you actually get the trophy?
No, but I don't know that they have a quote-unquote ceremony. At least they used to not have it. I think that they awarded it in the first quarter of a football game in the fall. You know what I mean? Like now, CDC or Brett may be able to tell me that I'm wrong about that, but used to it was just frankly used to they just mailed it and Stanford kept it for 25 straight years. I mean, this was only recently a real contest because Stanford used to have 37 or 39 Division I sports, and Texas only had 21. So, Stanford's over there participating in sailing as a varsity sport and getting points for it. But Texas, I think, won 4 of the last 5, if I'm not mistaken. So Longhorns doing good work overall in the athletic director. We've chronicled that here, but it's very important to keep mentioning that, I think, because we want to concede. I think it's great to see continued excellence across the 40 acres. That's really what we're looking for. And that's what so many of these programs and coaches are doing. And it was great, by the way, Jerry, great to see Sean Miller at the Elite Eight last night, supporting Vic Schaefer and his team. Steve Sarkisian went out to see Sean Miller in the Sweet 16 game. There's some camaraderie inside the building. I would put it that way, and among coaches. That's great to see. And you mentioned, Bob Bowman and all those guys. They're Schloss. Schloss always at football games. You'll see him everywhere. So it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Brett says winner formally announced after baseball wraps up. So baseball's got to be the last sport.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brett.
Yes.
Thank you, Brett.
And then he said trophy presentation in the fall at a football game. It was the San Jose State game last year. So there you go. There's a good point of reference for sure.
I think Brett was asked to attend that event, actually. Because, it's good stuff. He's a really good guy.
We got a super chat that we need to get to this morning from Toasty Muffin. Thank you, Toasty Muffin. And attending practice, has anyone observed the communication in the secondary? If so, who is the green dot and how is the communication?
There has been no – Sark was asked specifically about the green dot. He said, we ain't worried about it right now.
Yeah.
We're not going there. We're not thinking about it. I'm worried about getting them to talk to one another and be able to operate without it. As far as how is the communication in the secondary, it wasn't something we could talk a lot about, frankly, because we didn't see a lot of it. Jelani McDonald obviously is the senior leader or member of the secondary right now. Cade Phillips, a young guy. Grayson Littleton, part of the secondary last year, but Bo Masco has come in. We'll see what happens. Xavier Filsamy has not been practicing heavily as well. So I don't know that we can talk about that at this point. The one thing I can say about the secondary, and both CJ, and I wrote about this morning on OnTexasFootball.com, by the way. I wrote on Sunday about Samari Matthews and how he's been a guy to keep your eye on in the secondary. I heard some more this weekend, and CJ heard something similar. I'm not saying Samari Matthews, young man out of North Carolina, true freshman, is ready to become the next Grayson Littleton and be that guy that you just insert day one in the starting line. I'm not saying that. We're 6 practices in. Today, basically right now, they're starting the 7th practice of the spring. I'm not saying he's there yet. I will say I think he may be on a trajectory of potentially being that guy. He's performing extremely well. And I would just add this. He's athletic, long, and if he can maintain consistency and physicality and mental makeup, I think Texas may have a really, really talented player, just from what I'm hearing behind the scenes now, okay? And I don't know if when I started thinking about good players in this class, I start with Derek Cooper, Jermaine Bishop, Tyler Atkinson, right, Jerry? That's kind of those are the main ones. I'm trying to tell y'all, I think that Samari Matthews, just like Grayson Littleton, ended up being one of those guys that you would put in that top 5 category of a class. I think Samari Matthews is working his way into that top 5 category of a recruiting class.
Yeah, and look, I said when Samari came out of high school, the guy he trains with, I know from the ESPN Under Armour days, he's always coached all the best corners, DBs down in the Charlotte area. He used to coach some of our camps here and there when I was a part of that. But I'll say this, and I said there's similarities, and I'm not saying going to be a second-round draft potentially like Manny Muhammad may, but there's similarities coming out of high school between those two guys. And this is why, because they've trained as a corner for years. So those guys tend to come into college more ready to play corner than guys that are an athlete that you move to corner. What do you see here? You see Samari playing corner. He's trained as a corner. Manny Muhammad trained as a corner for years. He wasn't the quarterback / receiver / safety / return man / corner when you needed him in a pinch. These guys play corner, and they have been for years. And so I think technique-wise, understanding-wise, even understanding the physicality you have to play with at the corner position, he's very similar to Manny in that regard. Now, there aren't many guys that you recruit that have played corner specifically for multiple years. You look at a Cade Phillips, he was going to take some time. Why? He played receiver, he played safety, he played corner, he played all over the place. There's a difference between doing that and doing this, than playing corner exclusively and training to be a corner for multiple years and playing corner multiple years. Those guys are just come in a little ahead of the game. And Manny had what Bobby said, that consistency is what he had. He was making plays early. And I think the whole thing for Samari is there's similarities between those two guys. Now it comes down to that consistency. And I'm not saying he's going to start as a freshman. It's a different time at Texas. But I am saying that him having success early at Texas, I think he's been prepared for that.
One of the best breaks out of his back pedal. That's what I was told. Just really quick and sudden out of it gives him some opportunities. I would also say this, and CJ noted this, and so did the person I spoke with. Samari likes to talk a little. Maybe that's how he's like Manny Muhammad was kind of silent, and not totally silent by any means, but he was more let his play do the talking early on. Samari Smoke Matthews likes to give a little smoke after he that's what I'm being told in practice, by the way, just so you know. He likes to chop it up like a lot of big time cornerbacks do.
Yeah.
Something about that confidence level probably.
All right, well, we got more to talk about this morning. We're going to get to some more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Hayes City Store.
Yeah, I want to tell you all about Tamra and Travis Tyndall's restaurant. This is a great place for friends and families for game watching of any sort. I went out there a couple weeks ago just to have dinner. Guys, it is a wonderful venue for family, for going out on a Friday night. Whenever you want to, it's just awesome. There are very few restaurants that once you go, you immediately know they are just special. Hayes City Store is one of those places. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, award-winning chicken fried steak, homemade desserts, all of it absolutely delicious. All of it from scratch. There's also live music 6 nights a week with 50-plus beer taps, ice-cold long necks, tasty margaritas. There are 13 TVs alone in their ice house, perfect for game days. And they even have brunch served 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Sunday. Hayes City Store is also dog-friendly, and they have a tree net for kids. Join the folks out at Hayes City Store and bring your whole crew. For more information, check out the website at hayescitystoretx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texan.
Thank you for that. And let's go ahead and move on to a super chat this morning, which is also some other news that came out yesterday and haven't even had a chance to mention it. Rocky P says, Blake, how concerning is the Adrian Rodriguez injury? Also, should we be concerned with Kevon getting beat up a bit this weekend? So for those that missed it, Texas shortstop Adrian Rodriguez, it was announced yesterday, will be out for at least a few weeks. They didn't give a definitive timeline, but definitely out starting yesterday. So yeah, that's a little concerning for sure. You never want to lose your starting shortstop on any team, regardless of how deep it may be. I would assume that Becerra, the third baseman, moves to short. The first baseman, Casey Borba, moves to third. And then first is kind of I don't know. It's up in the air. I mean, you could have Corville, you could have Livingston. It's really hard to say. It's one of those, robbing Peter to pay Paul type situations. So we'll see what they do there. But I do think that Borba will most likely move to third and Becerra moves to shortstop. I just don't know who would go to first in that scenario. And I think they may not even know who. We might find that out tonight when they play, but I don't know. We'll see. I think that's something they'll tinker with. As far as Kevon goes, I haven't heard anything that any concerns anyway, I guess I should say. So I think she'll be okay. Obviously, she pitched a lot this past weekend against Texas A&M, probably more than she would have liked to or that Coach White would have liked to use her, but I think she'll be fine in the long run.
Was it her on the mound that wasn't getting the cold strikes that caused Mike White to?
It was everybody.
A little testy.
It was everybody.
It was everybody. Everybody. I don't know if y'all seen that, but Mike White got thrown out of a game.
Yeah,
and he pulled an old Billy Martin, with his throwing the dirt, all right, kicking the dirt on home plate because balls and strikes calls from the umpire.
I can only imagine what he said, but part of it was probably we have 190-foot fences. Okay, if we have a tight strike zone too, these games are going to be 15-10.
Yeah, maybe so.
All right, well, let's get to some more questions here. Let's see. Let's do some recruiting questions. Jack Burton says, whatever happened to the lineman out of Melissa? Is that kid still committed?
Signed with Max Wright signed with SMU in December. Signed with SMU. More of a NIL play by SMU, which is going to happen.
Trevor Gooseby signed with Texas, though.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, because it is recruiting and it is Melissa, Austin Gooseby plays in a McDonald's All-America game tonight on the ESPN. The girls' game is before the guys. There's 3 Texas signees from the women's side playing, and then Austin Gooseby's playing in the men's, and he has been tearing it up. He has been tearing it up at McDonald's All-America game. He's trending more to a potential one-and-done player, which is good. You want guys like that with experienced college players around them. We'll see if he gets there, but he's starting to trend. You're going to start to see him pop up on these 27 mock drafts soon.
Let's see here. Our next one, David Raw, is going to put you on the spot, Jerry. Any more commits coming before summer?
I think there's a chance. I don't think it's necessarily – I'm not going to say anything's a lock in the NIL day and age, but I think there's a chance. Yeah, because I think the thing with Texas and all these schools is when you go to 105, there's some kids whose recruitments absolutely are not going to shut down before the June OVs. The guys that really have NIL leverage and their agents have NIL leverage, those are going to be rare. But then I think they're the other guys who maybe not be the big NIL recruitments, that if those kids decide where they want to go, then I think those guys can make some decisions. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Nothing we've heard that's 100% concrete that makes me think it'll happen. Think it'll happen at OTF, but I would say it's definitely possible.
Hey, Jerry, I had a question for you as it relates to that real quick, and that is number of offensive linemen in this recruiting class. Jackson Cook's the first one that's committed, right, for the class of 2027. How many total do you think they're going to try to take this year? And with the idea that, hey, they're now up to 105.
I think 5 is the max, and I think 4 is probably the number right now, because a lot of these guys are national recruitments, and there's only so many you're going to win, and there's only so many from an NIL allotment you're going to have. I think there's tiers to it, like any other position. I think there's tiers to these guys, and it's how some schools view a player in a tier versus how you may view a player in a tier. So I look for 4 to be the likely number. It could go to 5 if things really fall your way.
Now it's interesting because numbers have not gone in Texas' favor on the O-line late in the process. You know what I mean? And I wonder if they're going to try to sign more this year now that it's to 105, because you get a chance to, punch another lottery ticket maybe, right? Yeah. Late in the process. So I actually think that's a real possibility, but we'll see how it goes. Jerry, the other thing I was going to say, recruiting, he mentioned the summertime. That's when the official visits are being lined up, all in the month of June, correct? And the difference this year than last year and previous years is they're actually going to try to use all 3 weekends, it looks like to you, as opposed to just 2. So even early June's going to line up to be a big weekend.
They have 48 OVs set right now through June 5th, 7th weekend, 12th, 14th, 19th, 21st. I think they'll end up with 55-ish of those. I mean, like Jackson Cook committed. I don't know if his OV date's out. I'm sure it's going to be the 5th through 7th. So essentially that's 49. I think they're going to be in mid-50s. Now, some of those late June guys, I'm not sure will actually make the Texas OV, because I think there's going to be some schools from an NIL tiers perspective that view some guys differently than maybe a Texas does, and that's going to shrink your number a little bit. But I think around 50 OVs at the end of the day, and I really think that with the 105, I really think that's going to be more in play now, is these tiers, your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3s of NIL, how Texas or a major school views some of these guys, and then how does a mid-level SEC or Big 10 or Big 12 view those guys. Because if you have a guy in a tier 3 and then they have a guy in a tier 2, that's a different money set. So do you want to go to that different money set, or do you want to go to the bigger school and bet on yourself a little bit more? I think that's going to be interesting to watch it play out. I personally think more of the guys will go with the tier 2s. I think filling those 105 scholarships is going to be a difficult task, because while it's easy from a fan standpoint to say, well, I'd go to Texas and bet on myself, if there's a $100, $150, $200,000 difference in NIL, I don't think many of those kids will.
It all depends on what their thought process is.
Yeah.
You know, if you believe in the development process and playing against the best, and iron sharpens iron and all those analogies, kind of depends.
Yeah. And so here's the question I think that will be interesting. If you could go to, and this is not taking anything away from Kentucky in football, if you could go to a Kentucky in football and play in the SEC and play earlier, do you do that versus going to a Texas or Georgia or LSU in the SEC for less money? I think that's where a lot of these decisions are going to come down to, or Mississippi State, along with a Kentucky and in that range, right? The lower half of the SEC. Do you go there and say, okay, I think I want to get on the field earlier, and if I go kick butt, then I can go anywhere I want for just about whatever price I want? I think that's what's the interesting strategy all these kids and agents and families are going through now.
As a kid growing up in Houston, I would not have said Kentucky. So they're just, I think part of that is where you grow up, who you want to be around. There are a lot of things to discuss and think about. So, but if it's life-changing money, that's one of the things to discuss, to Jerry's point.
All right, going back to the Samari Matthews conversation for just a moment here. This is when Horns and Race Capital asked this. He says, is that a positive from recruiting bigger school kids, playing a main position most of the time?
Yes and no, because you look at Jermaine Bishop, and he's the exact opposite. He played everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I think when the deal with cornerback is, it is a very technical position. You can't just run away from people.
Right.
Cornerback. There are a couple positions that I think do matter. And maybe cornerback might be one if you're looking to get on the field early. Now, if 6 months to 12 months in, it may not matter. You may have been able to get good enough. But I do think that certain positions require that.
Yeah, I agree.
And Jerry Tedapare wants to know, do we still have a high?
No, that was Jackson Cook. That was Jackson Cook. That was a quicker turnaround than most.
All right, going to the portal for a second. JC says, this may have been asked, but regarding transfer and our recent pickup, when is the last day that we can get transfers from the portal? I thought the window is closed.
So here's the deal, JC. You could actually get a transfer up until the last day. You can enroll in for fall semester of 2026. Okay. The only caveat to that, or the only stipulation, is that these transfers have to have entered the transfer portal back in the winter and early January. Paris Patterson, who signed with Texas, the reserve offensive lineman at SMU, just signed with Texas this morning. If you missed earlier in the show, He is considered a depth piece, offensive tackle, offensive guard, 6'5", 330 or so pounds. He signed with Texas. He went into the portal back in the winter, and now he can sign with anybody going forward. And so he chose to go with Texas. But the window itself to enter the portal is closed. The window to sign with somebody is not. But the stipulation is you had to have entered it previously. So, I mean, look, we may hear of a field goal kicker Texas signs in July.
Yeah.
Or an extra wide receiver or any of a number of things. So those guys, Brandon Harris, Chris Gilbert, John Michael Jones, all of those guys are going to be looking to add pieces later in the game. Just continue to fill in the roster. As I mentioned, Patterson is not expected to break into the starting lineup. He wasn't taken with that in mind. He was taken with an idea that he could be a depth piece that's older and either at guard or tackle.
And look, some players can always surprise. But to that point, there's a reason he was still in the portal. He wasn't recruited by anybody to be that guy to come in to compete for a job. There's a reason he was still out there in the portal.
Sorry about that. I forgot I was muted for a second. I didn't want to do what I am known to do every now and again. Okay, before we move on, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone one more time about our friends at Texas Road.
Absolutely. Our friend Rick Vavro and the guys at Texas Road, your full-service solution for major road projects with the full support of multiple crews performing utility, dirt work, concrete, and asphalt. Texas Road provides on-site concrete through volumetric trucks for smaller volumes. They're able to complete road building in a high-profile environment. Again, that is Rick Vavro and the guys at Texas Road, your full-service solution for major road projects around the state of Texas. Also want to mention his sister company, Austin Underground. All that work they're doing in downtown Austin has to start underground. Make sure you check out Rick Vavro and his team at Austin Underground and Texas Road.
And Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Mark Saunders.
One of our longtime sponsors of OTF, the Recruiting Breakdown Weekly. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Here's some good news. Texas All-State Agent serves the Austin and Round Rock area and the entire state of Texas. That means he's the only insurance agent you'll need. We call him the Director's Cup of insurance agents. Everything from your home, car, your boat, to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas All-State Agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? Our OTF guarantee is this. You'll be in great hands with the over 35 years of experience that Texas alum Mark Saunders brings to the table. Again, if you're looking for someone local to the Austin and Round Rock area or the entire state of Texas, give him a call, 512-218-8571. Our Director's Cup champion of insurance agents. He protects it all, all of it, everything.
All right, we got some more questions before we get out of here this morning, and let's do this one from Coach Steve Sarcasm. Man, there's been some good usernames here lately. How long has it been since the team was this deep?
It predates Steve Sarkisian's tenure at Texas. You know, CJ and I talked about this yesterday, and Sark came out with a one-on-one interview with Chris Lowe, former ESPN writer, now with On3 National yesterday. Tremendous article and a lot of insight into what Sark is thinking right now. And he said that, quote, this team is different. It's different right now. I look around offense. I look around defense. There have been times when we've been really good here at certain positions. Okay. There's not been a time where we look this good at so many positions simultaneously. And so Sark's embracing this too. I want to say that I think that's a huge piece of this. He's not shying away from, hey, we're talented. Ooh, let me down talk. Let me play the Lou Holtz role and, you know, bemoan our lack of talent. He has no problem calling a spade and saying what he needs to say and think. And that, of course, puts more pressure on him. But he's not shying away from it. I liked it. I liked that article. I like what he said. And when's the last time Texas has been this deep? Probably in the aughts. 05, 08, in my opinion. That area.
And just me, it should be that way. You're a top 3-4 NIL college football program. We're in the portal day and age. You should be. And by the way, Ryan Day, Sark at these schools, nobody can run from it because everybody knows you're a top tier one of the tier ones in NIL. Everybody knows what you can put together on a roster. So you either embrace it or it's a bad look. So, I mean, that's the reality of it. Texas is where they should be. That's my take. It's where they should be. So does it guarantee a national championship? Of course not, because I don't think any of the top 3 or 4 or 5 most NFL talented rosters won the national championship last year. So it's still a lot more that goes into it, but you have more of a margin for error.
And King Me says, do we have the offense this year to silence road crowds?
That's nice. You talk about getting out to 21-0 on somebody early in hostile territory? That kind of silence the road crowds? I actually think they do in certain spots. Not everywhere. You know, that I think they have too many weapons, Jerry. I just think they have weapon after weapon after weapon. And I know people are saying, okay, but what about offensive line? And I hear you. I think their offensive line is better than what people realize. Is it perfect? No. Is it dominating? I doubt it. But I don't know that there will be a dominating offensive line in the SEC. Maybe Georgia's was last year at times. But even they get stuck in neutral often. In the SEC, you just do because you play such good defensive players.
Yeah. I think Rod and I talked about this Sunday on the live stream. How do you silence crowds? You close out games running the football and take a crowd out of a game. And you kind of like the people in the stands in the SEC who've been doing it their whole life saying, ooh, kind of Texas, how Texas did it at Bama in Nick Saban's last year. That's how you take a crowd out of a game. They see in the stands that you are physically winning the football game and you're going to run the ball. And that is a tough way to lose. It was when a team can just run the ball for 6-7 minutes and control the end of a game and kind of put you on in the collar, and there's nothing you can really do about it. I think so in a game, obviously the explosive plays early in a game, right? And that Alabama game against Saban that last year is if you ideally can draw up a game, I think in the SEC, that's how you draw it up. You have big plays, you have explosive ability, but then in the fourth quarter, in a 1-score game, in a 10-point game, you have the ball for 6 or 7 minutes. And that's kind of how you take the heart of the crowd in SEC games. You say, all right, here it comes. Are you going to do anything about it? And if not, we're just going to bleed the clock and take a knee at the end of the game. I think that's how you really get it done in the SEC and in power football.
And we will close with this, so that way we can kind of go back to what we opened with here, because we've had a lot of people join. Corey J says, sorry if I missed it, but how much eligibility does the new offensive lineman have left?
2 years. So this year and next year. As I mentioned, he's from East St. Louis. I'll reiterate that for people that did not join early. A year ahead of Ryan Wingo, who came from the same area of the state or the region there. He signed with Arkansas originally, played 2 years at Arkansas, then transferred to SMU. Last year for SMU, he played 11 games on the offensive line for SMU. So he has some real game action. He then is now transferring, has signed with the University of Texas. He'll play guard and tackle for Texas, working at both spots. He is considered a depth piece. but someone with experience. And by the way, I did choose, because he's from St. Louis, I did choose to use this coffee cup. I don't know if you can see the arch. Not many people caught that Easter egg in the broadcast this morning, but he is, his name's Patterson, and he is your latest Texas Longhorn. Also, congratulations again to Jackson Cook and his family on his pledge to the University of Texas yesterday. That's the offensive lineman out of Austin's Westlake High School.
All right, guys. So that is going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by Texas Road. We want to thank Texas Road along with Harry's, Hexclad, Hayes City Store, and Mark Saunders, all for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in as well. Don't forget that Final Four send-off today at 3:15 at the Moody Center Plaza. And then, of course, Texas baseball hosts Texas State tonight. That game starts at 6:30. Other than that, we got you covered with more Longhorns coverage around the clock. Like what later, Bobby?
Well, I think the recruiting breakdown that Jerry just mentioned will be coming up for football, and there's going to be a little basketball news in there. Jerry's got some notes from the McDonald's All-America game I think he wants to get to on Trevor Goosby's little brother, Austin Goosby, but also talk about Jackson Cook, as well as some other guys that are setting up official visits to the University of Texas. Steve Sarkisian, this is important, goes to the mic at 11 o'clock this morning for a press availability. We will be there and have a report immediately following, so please follow up with us on that, as well as a number of other things going on. Watch and read what we have also over at ontexasfootball.com. We have a spring football special right now. If you subscribe for $39.95, if you use the code OTFOG, that's OTFOG, it's $20 off an annual subscription. That's on TexasFootball.com. Use the promo code OTFOG.
And now would be a good time for you to remind everyone that we're on social media just about any and everywhere, as you can see there, or if you're listening, at On Texas Football on YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And then we're on Facebook as well at Texas Longhorns News. So go find us on your favorite social media outlet and give us a follow there as well. And before we get here, I got to do one thing. I got to say a happy birthday to my beautiful wife, as today is her birthday. So happy birthday, Krista. And had to get that in. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow morning. We hope you have an outstanding day today. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Welcome, Horns.